We love our tree collards. They're very nutritious and we enjoy them in a wide variety of dishes. Now if you live in zones 7 or 8 through 10, you can easily grow them as perennials, but we grow them here in zone 5 too. Today I'll show you how we grow tree collards as annuals by propagating them and how we overwinter them under double cover. I'll start by showing you how I grow tree collards as annuals by propagating them with cuttings. I'll use cuttings from this plant, but first I need to remove most of the leaves. Tree collards can be a little bit tough, so when we eat them raw, we usually dice them finely and mix them in with a variety of more tender greens and eat them in salads. More often than not, though, we cook our tree collards. In fact, the only cooking video I've ever done is on how to prepare tree collards, or collards in general, using an African collard green recipe. Okay, I've removed almost all of the leaves from the plant. We'll be enjoying those for dinner. Now let's take our cuttings. Okay, you'll see right here that I left a little bit of leaf at the end of this one. In my experience, cuttings that have a small leaf on them will tend to propagate better. So what I want to do when I cut the cuttings is I want to make sure I have at least 6 of these nodes on each cutting. So these are where the leaves were cut off. And the nodes that are buried underground will develop roots. And the nodes above ground, hopefully, will develop leaves. So I want 6, at least 6 on each. So let's see what we have here. So we've got a few right up at the top. One here, one here. I think that's a good length for a cutting. Probably got 8 or 9 on this one. And there's our first cutting. Okay, I continue to work my way down the plant, looking for at least 6 nodes on each cutting. And I also want the length of the cutting to be about 6 to 8 inches long. That way it fits well into a pot. I'm actually going to go a bit longer on this one. And cut right here. There's our second cutting. And I'll continue taking cuttings in this manner until I have a dozen cuttings. That just happens to be the number of pots I have set up today with potting soil. So I'll continue on here and I'll get back to you when I'm done. Well, I've got my 12 cuttings, and my next step is to plant them in the pots that I have over here. But before doing that, I want to point something out that I forgot to show you earlier. Hopefully you can see down here, towards the bottom of the plant, that it's very woody, almost like a little tree. And the reason I'm pointing this out is that cuttings from parts that are woody like this won't propagate as well as cuttings from green parts of the plant. So I focus taking most of my cuttings from the top of the plant where it's nice and green. Okay, now let's grab our cuttings and we'll plant them in our pots. The potting mix I'm using is 5 parts coco coir, 4 parts vermiculite, and 3 parts worm castings from our worm bins. We find that we get about a 66% successful propagation rate using this potting mix. And again, when I plant these, I want to make sure that I have at least 3 of the nodes underground. Now this one happens to have a leaf on top, so I know which end is up. But if I didn't have a leaf on top, it's still very important to plant it so that it's upright. And the way you can tell when it's upright is that the node will have a little V shape and the V will point down. Or you can see it as a little heart with the bottom of the heart pointing down. Our tree collards sometimes go to seed, but the seeds may not breed true, so it's best to propagate them using cuttings. After planting all the cuttings, I'll place the tree collards in a south-facing window in the house, and I'll keep them watered. Over the winter, the nodes under the soil will develop roots, and the nodes above the soil will grow new leaves. I'll transplant the plants into the garden next April. Okay, I've planted all of my tree collard cuttings and they're ready to go inside. But before doing that, let's go back to the hoop house to talk about how I overwinter tree collards under double cover here in Zone 5. We grow a number of frost-tolerant crops all winter long under double cover. The double cover is provided by cold frames and low tunnels inside our hoop house. We first overwintered our tree collards 2 winters ago and they did remarkably well. We planted the tree collards months before our first frost. They overwintered just fine, and in the spring they really took off. The plants grew so tall that I had to cut them back significantly to keep them here in the hoop house. So I cut them way back, and then I tried overwintering them again last winter. Unfortunately, the plants didn't survive last winter. I'm not sure if it was because I cut them back so much and tried to overwinter them again, or it was just that last winter was a bit colder. So we're going to continue our experiment with overwintering tree collards here again this winter. Here in the corner of this cold frame you can see one of the many tree collard plants that I planted out here a couple months ago. The cabbage worms have been giving these plants a hard time, but soon it will be cold enough that they'll die back. My hope is that these tree collards will do as well as the ones that we overwintered a couple winters ago and continue to produce for us well into the spring and summer. Well, it's time to get these plants inside. If you'd like to try growing tree collards, please see the description for a link to where we got our original cuttings. And if you'd like to learn more about growing tree collards, please see this link. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more videos on how to grow a lot of food on a little land without spending much or working harder than you have to.
Some bare skin down there, be careful. Some bare skin, baby. I know you don't want to hurt your daddy. You do, huh? I have you wrong? I got you pegged wrong? Oh, no, you won't hurt Daddy, will you? You wouldn't hurt your daddy, would you? Good boy. Will you let me play an Oscar?